Love Filter is one of FL Studio's most powerful and versatile creative effects plugins. It's a multi-filter, multi-effects processor built around 8 identical filter banks. Each bank can process audio with its own filter, Waveshaper, volume, pan, and heavy modulation. The banks can run in parallel or in series. It's way more powerful than the simpler Fruity filter. The numbered tabs at the top select which filter bank you're editing. The circles above them light up when a bank is active. Left-click a number to enable or disable the bank. Right-click to solo it. The volume knob controls the input gain for the entire plugin. This box selects the filter type. SVF stands for State Variable Filter. There are 12 filter types total. These options let you choose the filter slope mode. Higher numbers create a steeper cutoff. Alt modes use different algorithms. The envelope knob controls the amount of modulation applied to the filter cutoff. The cut knob controls the filter cutoff frequency. The resonance knob boosts frequencies around the cutoff. The LBH vertical sliders are gain controls for the low, band, and high parts of the filter, depending on the filter type. In some modes, the low slider also acts as drive. The Alt button toggles between resonance and bandwidth control in certain filter modes. The On button turns the Waveshaper on or off, which adds distortion and saturation. The Amp knob controls the input gain into the Waveshaper. The Mix knob controls the wet-dry mix of the Waveshaper effect. The Mode button switches between unipolar and bipolar waveshaping modes. The Pan knob controls the stereo output of the current bank. The Volume knob controls the output volume of the current bank. The next slider sends signal to the next filter bank. Negative values invert phase for cool cancellation effects. The black grid with a white dot in the center is the XY macro controller. Drag the dot around to control 2 parameters at once. The slider with the triangle slider controls the master output for this module. The LFO and IEF sliders control the master amount of LFO and input envelope follower modulation. The IEF, or input envelope follower, is a built-in modulation source that automatically tracks the volume of the incoming audio signal and turns those volume changes into a control signal you can route to any parameter. Think of it as an invisible sidechain detector. When the input gets loud, the IEF generates modulation that can push parameters up or down. The Smooth button smooths out modulation so there's less stepping and more fluid movement. The X and Y knobs scale how much the X and Y axes of the controller affect their assigned targets. Can also be adjusted directly on the graph. When Use 1 is enabled, the output from Filter Bank 1 is used as the input for the IEF. When disabled, the input to the plugin is used as the source for the IEF. The Attack and Release knobs control both for the IEF. The Center button removes DC offset, which helps prevent unwanted low-end rumble. The HQ envelope button induces higher quality envelope calculation, which makes it smoother but uses more CPU. Oversampling is used to reduce aliasing or artifacts, but uses more CPU. The bottom section is the modulation matrix and envelope editor. The top row here are the targets, and the bottom row are the sources. In other words, for each target in the top row, there are a range of modulation sources in the bottom row that automate changes to those targets. The modulation targets include pan, volume, filter cut, which interacts with the cut parameter above, resonance, low, band, high filter modes, Waveshaper, which defines how the signal is distorted, and Waveshaper mix, which is the wet-dry ratio for the Waveshaper. For each of the targets stated, you can decide how each of the following modulation sources influence that parameter. The modulator can be 10 user-definable pattern slots, LFO, mod XY, or the envelope of an input sound, or IEF. Left-click and move the mouse up or down on this box to cycle through 10 unique pattern slots. A pattern is simply a user-definable shape. MIDI notes C5 to E6 can be used to change patterns on the fly when the plugin is focused or receive notes from is used. You can disable note input from the Options menu. You can edit and store 10 modulation patterns in the Pattern tab. Select the pattern on the left. LFO is a classic low-frequency oscillator. Mod X and Y are the two axes of the modulation controller. IEF follows the volume of the incoming audio and turns it into modulation, great for sidechain style ducking or dynamic filtering. The freeze icon freezes the current envelope shape. Enable this option to enable step editing mode, which lets you create a freehand curve. Enable this option if you want the points to snap to the nearest step in the timeline. Enable this option to preserve the relative distance between a dragged control point and all control points following it.